I grew up in a gaslighting dynamic, as a lot of us do. And back then, they didn't call it gaslighting, but it was the same thing. Your honesty, your wisdom as a young child, your choices, it was all gaslighted, ridiculed, and ostracized emotionally from the family was also my dynamic. Ostracized emotionally by my mom. And my experience was completely contradictory to the family image. I grew up not understanding what was real or not real, and it was terrifying. And I ended up in a complete freeze state, doubting everything in my reality. So yesterday I was on the porch swing, which I spend a lot of time out there. It's one of my sanctuaries here at my home, outside my outdoor living space. And I'm surrounded by trees. I live out in the country. There are forests on every side of me. And on the front porch, um, there's a street and then a little bit of a field, um, and then the forest. But it's not that far. And yesterday, as I sat on the porch swing, I could see the places where the edges of the farm equipment had scraped across some of the tree trunks right at the edge of the forest. And there's this cemetery on one end of that part of the forest. And it's like I call it an antique cemetery. It's actually very beautiful. It's over 200 years old, and it has the antique iron fencing around it with the really antique tombstones and all that. And there's an magnolia tree in the cemetery on the inside of the fence, the iron fence. And anyway, I'd had an experience with that magnolia tree. And it's not that the tree was talking to me, but you get it a lot of times in senses, sensing things like feeling things or just knowing, not necessarily hearing the tree talk to you, but it was referred to as Mother Magnolia. And it turned out that I found out by my guides that that tree was 194 years old. Anyway, that was one of the trees that got scraped by the farm equipment. So I had contacted the landowner and let him know so that he could, protect the tree from decay or disease. And he was so glad that I had contacted him. But the experience I had sitting in that porch swing and noticing that, like I love to say everything happens for us. And it was not a coincidence that this happened, that this information was put into my experience by my guides. And that was, I suddenly started thinking about my perseverance, everything that I had endured as a child, then moving into an adult because I made those choices based on my childhood experiences. I made choices that kept me in narcissistic environments and so on and so on as an adult. So I started feeling the ultimate gratitude that I had for myself for all the things I did in choosing to persevere, all of those experiences. And I got emotional just sitting there and experiencing that after seeing where those tree trunks had been damaged. And it's like my experience in this human life had been damaged. And I amaze myself to think about where I was, how I felt in that complete freeze state, doubting everything and my reality, and how I persevered. And on top of that, how I have healed. Healing an ancestral karmic pattern. I actually have healed the ancestral lineage of all the previous generations that had to deal with childhood trauma such as mine, mainly mother-daughter. So, yeah, it was a very emotional moment sitting on that screen porch. And my guides have been trying to get me to acknowledge how much I had accomplished and to be proud of myself. It's like I couldn't do it. And I feel like, and I was told by my guides that that was also part of that conditioning, being so traumatized, being so distance from intimacy and deep connection, that I wasn't able to receive the fact, the knowing, the feeling of being proud of myself that I had accomplished what I have accomplished. It's like I would accomplish something and move on to the next, accomplish something and move on to the next. So that was how I actually persevered and began to heal, as I did it by getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, because the healing can be uncomfortable. You're choosing to no longer dim yourself down to make others feel secure. I worked on self-judgment. That was a big one, because our internal state has all the influence over our lives. I stopped worrying about, at some point, I decided to stop worrying. It began intellectually, right? It began as a mental process. Okay, this is what I have to do. And then after that, it becomes an embodiment. But I stopped worrying about other people's feelings to clear those rigid, anxious patterns that I had chosen for so long, because they just zap our life force energy. And it's not just about thinking positive thoughts. You have to take action by expressing your emotions regularly, by choosing you, doing and behaving differently, by retraining your nervous system. You choose new ways of being. You honor your heart and protect your energy, seeing your boundaries as sacred. Truth is safe in your voice. You have to change the way you look at all of things. All of these things. You choose not to self-abandon anymore. You choose to stand firm and choose you. Mother Magnolia said, soft heart, strong back. She didn't say it with words, but when you talk to nature and you get quiet to receive what nature has to offer as answers, it's feelings, or it could be something that you see in the physical that is an actual response from nature. You ask in nature a question. So Mother Magnolia for me was a big symbol of soft heart, strong back. stand tall, stand firm, take ground in your truth, in your authenticity. You have to feel things to heal. You have to feel the full grief of all that you went through and all that you did not receive. You have to acknowledge the rage. You have to release guilt and shame and face the pain. Look it right in the face. Don't just know it intellectually. It's an embodiment. You have to feel the feelings to the fullest. Process it. Process the trauma that's trapped energy in your body. And it's trapped because every time we did not want to feel those emotions or express them or let anyone see them, and we didn't want to see them, we pushed them down and they stay in the body until we do the healing work. And the ways that you release and alchemize is lots of things. Crying, the tears, alchemize, transmute and alchemize that pain. The rage, express the rage, screaming, punching pillows, shaking your body, dancing, the EFT tapping, writing, journaling, drumming. Be in the experience, be in the pain, the discomfort, till it's all out. And there's lots of other ways I haven't mentioned. And then after that part is done, and it's usually the actual releasing of it, if you don't get lost inside the emotion and you're expressing the emotion, but at the same time you're observing and you see that you are doing the healing, it is actually a short time. They say that it takes about 90 seconds. So after that time, after a couple minutes, then you can do something to comfort yourself, to soothe yourself, like lay on the earth. If you can't lay on the earth, walk barefoot on the earth. Take a salt bath with rose or lavender oil. I've done these things, and it does make a difference. You can't always do that. But if you just take a minute or two, like if you have this release at work or on your lunch break, whatever, then your soothing and your comforting can be like a 2-minute breath work, a 2-minute meditation in the light, to light bathe yourself in the center of your own light, your source energy, knowing that you are safe in a world that loves you unconditionally. So that's what I wanted to get off my chest tonight. It's time for me to go to bed. And I just felt like I couldn't go to bed until I got this recorded. And I'll go ahead and post it. So thank you all for being here. Thank you all for subscribing. And I would love to hear or read any of your comments, anything that you want to share. I want to build a community here for us to have a place to come where we know that others have experienced the same thing that we have experienced, a support system. We can help each other just by supporting each other and knowing that we're not alone. And talk to your guides. Be open to them. If you don't know how to talk to them, learn. If you don't know how to listen to them or communicate with them or receive their communication, learn. I've got other videos up here, and there are hundreds of other YouTubers that share this type of information. Learn how to communicate and receive information from your guides. They are helping you every day, whether you realize it or not. And most of you do. I feel like most of you do know. So we see you, we love you, and we honor you. Blessed be. I wanted to add that I would like it if you would tell me if there's anything that you want to hear about, anything that in specific you want me to talk about, even if you want to us to have a Q&A. I can answer any of your questions to the best of my ability. I'm even willing to answer questions about my life and my experience as a traumatized person and my experience being a people pleaser. I will answer any question. I say that. That is my intention. And I probably will. I'm usually very transparent because that's what I've been guided to do. And that is the only way I kind of know how to do it. It's just to be direct and transparent and genuine because for so long I was not my authentic self and I was afraid to express my feelings out loud, much less in my own acknowledgement, you know, behind closed doors. I couldn't do that either, but I just popped back on because I want to invite you to give me some questions in the comments. Give me ideas, topics under that umbrella of people pleasing, childhood trauma, healing, avoidant attachment styles, anything like that. I have been guided very strongly to share my direct experience, and I usually share it very openly. I just say the way it was real. If it makes me cry, it makes me cry. So thank you again for being here. We appreciate you.